Secret of Skinwalker Ranch was expected to bring long-awaited answers, but what it unleashed was far more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. For decades, the Utah ranch has been infamous for its tapestry of horrors: blinding UFO encounters, violent bursts of electromagnetic energy, creatures that seemed to step straight out of nightmares, and ancient legends whispered by generations. Yet this season's revelations didn't just unsettle the team. They suggested that something impossibly unnatural has been lurking just beneath their feet, concealed in the earth as if waiting to be found. Dr. Travis Taylor, the team's no-nonsense chief scientist, found himself staring at data that defied both logic and physics. His unease was palpable. The deeper they dug, the more the evidence pointed toward an intelligence that wasn't simply watching them. It was protecting something buried in the ground. The turning point came when the team joined forces with the Luna Group, an advanced research outfit led by Jeremiah Pate, a brilliant young mind obsessed with unlocking the secrets of subsurface radar. With their cutting-edge technology, they began peeling back the layers of the Mesa and the East Field, only to uncover signatures and structures no natural geology could explain. What emerged wasn't just science, it was a warning, and the closer they looked, the stranger, more dangerous, and more alive the land seemed to become. The command trailer buzzed with tension as the Luna Group's aerial radar swept beneath the Utah soil, its hum filling the silence until the monitors lit up with shapes no one was prepared to see. What began as faint lines resolved into a lattice of tunnels, dark voids threading the earth with unnatural precision. They weren't the jagged chaos of caves or the organic flow of lava tubes. They were engineered, straight, geometric, converging beneath the most infamous anomaly zones, the Triangle, the Mesa, and the East Field, where countless UFOs and glowing orbs had been reported. The deeper the radar probed, the more the voids revealed themselves as something deliberate, designed with purpose. A massive chamber appeared beneath the Triangle, so large it rivaled a sports arena, its boundaries crisp and unnatural. Eric Bard leaned forward, eyes wide. "That's not geology," he muttered. Caleb turned to Travis Taylor, his voice tight. "Those are tunnels, right? You're seeing this too?" Travis adjusted his mirrored sunglasses, his jaw rigid. "These aren't caves," he said flatly. "Somebody built this." His words sent a chill through the room. Thomas Winterton swallowed hard, pointing at the chamber. "That's exactly where we saw the light column open up last year." Brandon Fugel's usually calm demeanor cracked, his tone edged with alarm. "You're saying there's some kind of buried installation under my property?" Before Travis could respond, the equipment crackled violently, the radar feed stuttering into static. For a fraction of a second, the cavern beneath the Triangle seemed to flicker with a pulse of energy, as though something inside was reacting to being scanned. Eric cursed under his breath, fighting to stabilize the system. "We're losing the signal. This isn't interference, it's coming from down there." At the same time, the trailer itself shifted into chaos. Phones buzzed, tablets glitched, cameras froze, and the air grew icy, as if an unseen presence had swept through the room. Caleb rubbed his arms, goosebumps rising. "It feels like the ground knows we're looking at it," he said, his voice low. The feed snapped back to life, but the chamber was gone, erased completely, leaving only ordinary stone as though the tunnels had never been there. The team stared in disbelief, the silence heavier than any words. Travis leaned closer to the monitor, the glow of the screen reflected in his shades, his voice dropping into a tone that made every man's stomach sink. "Something down there doesn't want to be found." "That's intentional," Travis muttered, the words slicing through the air of the command tent like a warning. For him, a scientist who lived in the uneasy space between skepticism and open-minded curiosity, saying intentional was no small admission. It was a seismic shift. If the tunnels weren't accidents of geology, then someone or something had put them there with purpose. The implications were staggering, and the room fell silent as the thought sank in. The discovery tied directly to past mysteries on the ranch, like puzzle pieces suddenly snapping together. Years earlier, drilling into the Mesa had struck something buried in the rock, a dome-like metallic object that refused penetration, shrugged off the drill bits, and sent instruments into chaos. Now, the scans revealed that very area as a nexus point in the subterranean lattice, a hub where the tunnels seemed to converge. Even more unnerving, some of the voids aligned perfectly with sites where witnesses had reported orbs darting through the tree line, glowing lights that appeared and vanished without pattern, unless those patterns were invisible highways beneath their feet. Theories spread rapidly across the tent. Could this be evidence of a long-forgotten civilization? Ancient builders who left behind a hidden network beneath the desert? Or had the structures been carved by something extraterrestrial, Something that still moved through them. The most chilling question was the one no one dared to voice at first. Were the tunnels still in use right now? Plans were drawn up on the spot to probe the voids, to send in drones, sensors, anything that could penetrate the mystery. But before the team could act, the ranch responded. Lights inside the trailer dimmed to a pulse, the radar monitors flared with static, and a deep, bone-rattling vibration rolled beneath the ground as if the mesa itself had exhaled. Then came the unmistakable sensation, felt by every person in the tent, that something below was not only aware of them, but watching. GPS units scrambled without warning, spinning their readouts into gibberish. Tools that had been locked inside cases the night before were simply gone, as if plucked out of existence. Then came the most chilling sign. Motion sensors along the base of the mesa lit up with the outline of a humanoid figure, warm, alive, walking, before vanishing in less than 3 seconds. The implication was inescapable. Whatever was down there wasn't just buried, it was aware of them, moving in and out of their perception, as if mocking the very idea of containment. The team's next move was desperate but calculated. If the ground was fighting them, then they would take the investigation to the air. For the first time on the ranch, the DART system, Deep Atmospheric Radio Tomography, was mounted beneath a helicopter designed to sweep the property vertically and reveal structures hidden in the air itself. Their primary target was the bubble, the most feared zone on the property, a hotspot where compasses spun, electronics failed, and even seasoned pilots reported nausea and vertigo. The helicopter lifted off under a steel-gray sky, the DART system pulsing its 18 MHz signal like a spear into the unseen. At first, the monitors inside the command trailer tracked it perfectly, a steady rhythm of data echoing back. Then, without warning, the signal was gone. Not weakened, not distorted, erased. The air itself had swallowed it whole. On the monitor, the graph went flat. In the helicopter, the pilot's headset erupted with static so violent he tore it off, shouting that his compass had locked north and the controls felt heavy, as though something was dragging the aircraft down. From the ground, the team watched in disbelief as the chopper's lights blinked and shimmered, warping in and out of sight like a mirage, as if the craft was slipping into another layer of reality. Dr. Taylor gripped his radio, his tone sharp but edged with dread. "We've lost the signal. Something up there is shutting us down." The ranch wasn't just hiding secrets anymore. It was fighting back. A shadow appeared on the secondary sensors, a distortion pacing the helicopter in perfect parallel, as though something unseen was stalking it through the air. Then, without warning, the DART system's internal temperature spiked past 85 degrees Celsius, even though the chopper was flying through near-freezing air. The alarm screamed, and over the comms, Dr. Travis Taylor's voice cut sharp. "If the data stream cuts, flag it. That's not an error. That's the clue." And the clues piled up fast. The bubble wasn't just an anomaly, it was behaving like a barrier, an invisible wall that scrambled every signal, every attempt to peer inside. Even at 30,200 feet above the property, the interference didn't fade. It climbed vertically into the sky like a tower of distortion, suggesting that whatever force surrounded the ranch extended far beyond the ground. When the DART was hastily patched up and redeployed, the results sent shockwaves through the team. The process scans didn't return random noise or broken geology, they revealed structure. Symmetrical, deliberate, architectural. A tunnel-like formation stretched with surgical precision from the triangle to the base of the mesa, its walls smooth and evenly spaced as if carved by design rather than nature. Then came the image that froze the room, a massive chamber, unmistakable in its geometry, sitting directly beneath the site, where drilling had once struck the unyielding metallic anomaly. The radar had confirmed their worst suspicion. They weren't standing on unexplained geology, they were standing above a buried construction, something ancient, hidden, and waiting. The room fell into stunned silence as the images settled on the monitors, their clean lines and perfect angles an impossible fingerprint of design. Brandon Fugel leaned forward, his voice tight with disbelief. "That's not natural. That's construction, buried right under our feet." Thomas Winterton paled, his mind flashing back to the drilling incident that nearly crushed his skull with sudden swelling in his head, as though the mesa itself had retaliated. Eric Bard's hands hovered over the controls, his face a mask of calculation and fear. "This chamber, it's the exact spot where our instruments went haywire. It's the same metallic signature we couldn't breach." Caleb whispered, almost to himself. "It's alive down there." The tension coiled tighter until Brandon broke it with resolve. "We need to go in, excavate, send drones, probes, whatever it takes. We can't turn away from this." But before anyone could argue, the ranch answered. The lights in the command trailer dimmed in a rolling wave, every monitor flickering with static. The floor seemed to vibrate, with a low, resonant hum that wasn't coming from the equipment but from the earth itself, as if the Mesa were growling. GPS units on the desks spun uselessly, radios spat white noise, and outside, the sky above the triangle shimmered with faint arcs of light, flickers that danced like electric veins across the clouds. A motion sensor alarm shrieked, showing a heat signature moving just outside the tent, humanoid in outline but vanishing the instant anyone looked. Brandon's voice cut through the chaos, urgent and strained. "It knows we found it." Travis Taylor, his tone darker than ever, didn't disagree. "This isn't just data. This is a warning. Whatever's down there does want us digging any deeper." Even more unsettling than the tunnels themselves was what the astronomical alignments revealed. The Mesa sat like a keystone at a cosmic node, a position where ancient sky paths intersected, a place where the fabric of reality might be thinner, more pliable, easier to bend. If the tunnels were corridors, then perhaps they didn't just lead somewhere, they led elsewhere. Travis Taylor, usually the voice of cautious rationalism, could not dismiss the possibility outright, though his growing frustration was visible in every clipped word and tightened gesture. Each new dataset only deepened the mystery, dragging them further from the familiar shores of science and closer to a truth so radical it threatened to topple everything they thought they knew. The evidence suggested the ranch was not merely an isolated pocket of strangeness, but a node in a far larger system, a vast web that might stretch across dimensions as easily as it did across miles. While such revelation should have been cause for triumph, the atmosphere on the ranch grew heavier, more oppressive, as if the land itself resented their progress. The data no longer pointed to random anomalies or hidden geology. It pointed to intelligence. Something had engineered those tunnels with deliberate precision. Something sustained the electromagnetic bubble that swallowed their signals and stalked their machines. And if it was technology, then it was not human technology. What they were facing was not just advanced, it was so far beyond human understanding that calling it alien barely scratched the surface. The decision to move forward came with tension thick enough to taste. Brandon, ever determined, insisted they couldn't stop now, not when the data pointed to the possibility of a buried structure. Eric calibrated a ground probe designed to penetrate deep into the soil near the triangle, its sensors shielded against interference. Travis hovered close, arms folded, jaw clenched, his unease obvious even behind the mirrored shades. "If this thing fails," he muttered, "we'll know it's not equipment, it's suppression." The probe was lowered into the ground under a gray, windless sky, its signal feeding into the command trailer. At first the reading streamed in clean, steady soil composition, density, moisture. Then, as it reached the depth where the metallic anomaly had been struck years earlier, the feed warped. Data packets scrambled into gibberish, then corrected, then scrambled again. Eric frowned, tapping keys. "It's like something is jamming us selectively." Suddenly the probe's temperature spiked, climbing past tolerance levels as though it were being cooked from within. An alarm blared, and the feed cut to black. At that same instant, every instrument inside the trailer went haywire. GPS spinning, radios erupting with static, cameras glitching into distorted colors. Outside, a low-frequency hum vibrated through the air, so deep it rattled their chests. Then came the flash. A sphere of brilliant blue light erupted above the probe site, hanging in the air like a miniature sun. It shimmered violently, warping the air around it, and then shot straight up into the sky with impossible speed, leaving a scorched ring in the earth. Inside the trailer, Thomas staggered back from the monitors, his voice shaking. "It knows what we're doing," Caleb muttered, eyes wide. "It doesn't just know, it's fighting us." The hum deepened, rolling out from the mesa like a growl, and Travis spoke into the silence, his words grim. "Whatever's under there, it's still active, and it does not want us to dig any deeper. They may be the output of a system still running in real time, a buried machine or structure engineered to project power, warp space, or cloak itself from discovery. And if that is true, then disturbing it could be catastrophic." Season 6 of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch promised answers, but what it delivered was something far more unsettling, confirmation that a deliberate intelligence lies beneath the ground, and that it may be tied directly to the strange, impossible phenomena witnessed in the skies above. For Dr. Travis Taylor, the evidence is undeniable, but the implications push the limits of reason. He isn't celebrating because he understands the weight of what they've stumbled into. The team is no longer chasing folklore or chasing shadows. They are standing at the edge of technology, intelligence, and perhaps even realities that do not belong to our world. Every scan, every burst of interference, every vanishing heat signature is pointing to the same conclusion, that the ranch is not simply a hotspot of anomalies, but a guarded threshold. A place where secrets are protected by forces we barely understand. The data doesn't just whisper mystery, it screams intent. Something built the tunnels. Something maintains the electromagnetic bubble. And if that something is still active, then it may be watching their every move. As Taylor and his team prepare for deeper drilling and more invasive testing, one truth grows darker with every passing day. Whatever is buried beneath Skinwalker Ranch has survived for a reason, and it may not be ready, ever, for us to uncover it. Night settled over Skinwalker Ranch like a weight, the silence broken only by the hum of machines struggling against forces they could not measure. Inside the command center, the atmosphere thickened as screens flickered, data spiked, and familiar patterns of disruption unfolded. GPS units collapsed into chaos, drones lost contact and spiraled into failure, and motion sensors captured a fleeting humanoid heat signature that vanished as quickly as it appeared. The sense of intrusion was undeniable. The disturbances were no longer interpreted as chance anomalies but deliberate responses. Something beneath the mesa was not only present, it was aware. Field teams discovered that even their most secure equipment could not escape interference. Locked cases had been opened as if by unseen hands, tools missing without evidence of tampering. The ground itself seemed complicit, denying the team the comfort of control. Attention turned skyward. Suspended beneath a helicopter, the deep atmospheric radio tomography system was designed to sweep the ranch with precision, its 18 mH signal probing for structural anomalies in the so-called bubble, an aerial zone infamous for electromagnetic interference, compass failures, and unexplained malfunctions. As the system transmitted, the unexpected occurred. The signal did not reflect, distort, or scatter. It vanished entirely, as though consumed by the atmosphere above the mesa. Space itself appeared to reject the intrusion, swallowing the energy in silence. The discovery carried implications beyond conventional science. What was observed resembled not a natural anomaly but a barrier, something that behaved like a cloaking field, masking or protecting whatever existed within. When underground data was overlaid with celestial alignments, the patterns became even more unsettling. The voids beneath the mesa were geometric, intentional, their orientation linked to the stars. This was not an accidental cave system, but a structure, a machine, a gateway. The possibility emerged that the phenomena long reported on the ranch, glowing orbs, unidentified aerial craft, sudden bursts of radiation, were not visitors from elsewhere. They could be manifestations of something entering or exiting through a hidden passage anchored within the mesa. The land carried the feel of resistance. Every attempt to measure, to map, or to drill seemed to provoke a counteraction. Radiation spikes, scrambled electronics, the sudden appearance of heat signatures, each one like a reminder that the boundaries of the ranch were actively guarded. The final images reinforced the sense of surveillance. On thermal cameras, a humanoid silhouette lingered at the edge of the mesa, standing in silence before dissolving into the desert air. The ranch did not reveal its secrets, it defended them. And as investigations deepened, the evidence pointed not to a passive mystery, but to an active system, an ancient concealed technology, enduring for centuries, hidden beneath Utah's red earth. Whatever its origin, its presence suggested one chilling truth: some things buried here were never meant to be uncovered. Perhaps the craft do not descend from distant stars at all, but slip through from an adjacent dimension, threading their way along hidden tunnels that act as corridors between worlds. The thought carries a chilling resonance when placed beside the centuries-old accounts of the Ute and Navajo, whose stories warn of skinwalkers, shapeshifters, and beings that move freely between realms. These tales, once dismissed as myth, now seem to echo with unsettling accuracy. If the tunnels beneath the mesa truly function as portals, then the monstrous figures reported across generations may not be mere legend. They may be travelers, or worse, guardians, emerging only briefly into our reality. The giant, bulletproof wolves that appear from nowhere and vanish without a trace, the faceless humanoid shadows seen stalking the tree line, the radiant orbs that dart across the night sky like living intelligence. All could be expressions of entities slipping through space gates buried in the red heart of Utah's desert. The implications stretch far beyond strange creatures. If Skinwalker Ranch is indeed a dimensional gateway, then what emerges from it might not be limited to flesh and blood. Energy itself could bleed through. Radiation, electromagnetic storms, or distortions in time. A person standing too close could experience hours lost in moments or a lifetime compressed into seconds. Equipment fails not because of malfunction, but because it is exposed to laws of physics from another universe. It raises a far more unsettling possibility. The ranch may not just be a place where worlds touch. It may be a crossing point, a threshold that both attracts and repels. And if such a gateway exists, then the question is not simply what comes through it, but what, one day, might decide to stay. Perhaps the craft do not descend from distant stars at all, but slip through from an adjacent dimension, threading their way along hidden tunnels that act as corridors between worlds. The thought carries a chilling resonance when placed beside the centuries-old accounts of the Ute and Navajo, whose stories warn of skinwalkers, shapeshifters, and beings that move freely between realms. These tales, once dismissed as myth, now seem to echo with unsettling accuracy. If the tunnels beneath the Mesa truly function as portals, then the monstrous figures reported across generations may not be mere legend. They may be travelers, or worse, guardians, emerging only briefly into our reality. The giant, bulletproof wolves that appear from nowhere and vanish without a trace, the faceless humanoid shadows seen stalking the tree line, the radiant orbs that dart across the night sky like living intelligence. All could be expressions of entities slipping through space gates buried in the red heart of Utah's desert. The implications stretch far beyond strange creatures. If Skinwalker Ranch is indeed a dimensional gateway, then what emerges from it might not be limited to flesh and blood. Energy itself could bleed through. Radiation, electromagnetic storms, or distortions in time. A person standing too close could experience hours lost in moments or a lifetime compressed into seconds. Equipment fails not because of malfunction, but because it is exposed to laws of physics from another universe. It raises a far more unsettling possibility. The ranch may not just be a place where worlds touch. It may be a crossing point, a threshold that both attracts and repels. And if such a gateway exists, then the question is not simply what comes through it, but what, one day, might decide to stay. The electromagnetic spikes, sudden radiation bursts, and vanishing signals may not be random mysteries at all, but the fingerprints of technology deliberately hidden from human eyes. What investigators call anomalies could instead be the exhaust fumes of a machine far beyond modern comprehension, an invisible mechanism pulsing beneath the mesa and cloaked from detection. If Skinwalker Ranch is a controlled site, then the question becomes, controlled by whom? The evidence suggests precision, signals cut cleanly, drones forced down, electronics stripped of power as though switched off by an unseen hand. Such patterns feel less like nature and more like design, as if the land itself is governed by an intelligence that permits only glimpses before sealing itself shut again. The unsettling truth is that every discovery made on the ranch, the spikes, the distortions, the fleeting phenomena, is not a triumph of science, but a breach of a system that was never meant to be unlocked. Whether this system was built by human hands in ages lost to history, by non-human architects from elsewhere, or by something that exists outside the very flow of time, the result is the same. What lies beneath Skinwalker Ranch may be more than a mystery. It may be a conspiracy so vast it threads through centuries, hidden in folklore, encoded in alignments of stars, and buried beneath layers of electromagnetic armor. And if that is true, then every step deeper into the ranch is not just exploration, it is intrusion, a trespass into secrets designed to remain sealed, secrets that could unravel not only science but the fragile reality humanity takes for granted.